She fired me with a smile, like she was doing me a favor. Her exact words? "We'll find a professional to replace you." That single sentence haunted me, until I turned it into my weapon. She thought she humiliated me. But a few months later, I was sipping cocktails in Bali while she was getting escorted out of the university she loved so much. And the best part? I got paid more than a year's salary for her mistake. Hey everyone! Welcome back to Revenge Rewritten, where the underdogs always get the last laugh. If you ever had a boss who thought you were disposable, stick around. This one's poetic justice with a paycheck. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. Because today, karma hits back hard. When I got hired at the university, I felt like I'd finally made it. It wasn't Hollywood or some fancy ad agency. But for me, it was a dream. They were building a new media department, and I was going to be the content creator to kickstart their YouTube campaign. It was the early 2010s, back when YouTube was still a bit of a wild west. Not everyone knew what worked yet. All I knew was that I loved creating stories, scripting, filming, editing, putting meaning into moving pictures. The pay wasn't great, around $2,200 a month, but it was enough to survive, and the role felt like a foot in the door. On my second day, my new manager, Clara, called me into her office. Her office was spotless, books arranged by color, a tiny plant on her desk that I'm convinced she never watered. She was tall, confident, and spoke like every word was rehearsed. That kind of person who never sweats, never laughs too loud, the kind who wants everyone to know she's in control. "Here's your KPI," she said, sliding a crisp folder toward me. Inside was a chart. 85 videos, 3 to 10 minutes each, 52 weeks. I looked at her like she'd handed me a novel written in Latin. "Sorry, just to clarify, that's for the team, right?" She smiled. "No, that's for you." I let out a short, nervous laugh. That's impossible. That's nearly 2 videos a week. Scripting, shooting, editing, music, everything. I'm just one person. Clara leaned back in her chair, crossed one leg over the other, and said, "I know it's ambitious, but I believe in you. And if your videos are really good, I'll care more about quality than quantity." Fair enough. That sounded reasonable. I wanted to impress her, and maybe, deep down, I wanted to prove her right. So I agreed, and for the first few weeks, things were actually good. Clara would drop by while I was editing and say things like, "You're setting the standard here," or "You've got real vision. Keep it up." I worked 12, sometimes 14-hour days. My workstation at home became a jungle of cables, hard drives, and energy drink cans. Their office computers were prehistoric, couldn't handle HD rendering without crashing. So I used my own. Same with my camera, my mic, even my editing software. But I didn't mind. I was building something. Then came the cigarette. It was a Thursday, long shoot, late lunch. I stepped outside, lit one cigarette, and watched the smoke curl into the sky. It wasn't rebellion, it was survival. Just 5 minutes of quiet before diving back into chaos. When I came back in, Clara was waiting by the elevator. Her nose twitched like she caught a scent she didn't like. "Did you just smoke?" she asked, voice low and sharp. Yeah, outside, on my break." She gave a tight smile. "Right, I see." I didn't think much of it then. But from that day forward, everything changed. That 5-minute smoke break, it lit a fuse that burned straight through the rest of my career. It started subtle. Little comments. "You smell like smoke." "I prefer if you didn't bring that odor into meetings." Then it escalated. "You were 8 minutes late this morning. I couldn't reach you during lunch. You take too many breaks." I was doing over 60 hours a week. I barely had breaks. But nothing I did mattered anymore. Every achievement was ignored. Every mistake was amplified. I remember staying until 2 a.m. one night, editing a promotional video for the university's new business program. It was cinematic, emotional, one of my best. When it finally went live, it hit thousands of views in days, their highest ever. I thought maybe Clara would notice. She did. Her only comment? "The font in the title card feels unprofessional." That's when I knew this wasn't about work anymore. It was personal. A week later, I was talking with one of my colleagues, Maya, in the break room. She was older, late 30s, kind face, been at the university forever. I told her about Clara's sudden coldness. Maya sighed and said, "You're a smoker, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, Clara hates smokers. She's tried to get a few fired over it. She'll find something late in this performance, anything." I froze. "Are you serious?" She nodded grimly. "Just watch your back." And she was right. Over the next few weeks, Clara became unbearable. She'd stand behind me during edits, arms crossed, breathing down my neck. She'd send long, condescending emails at 11 p.m. asking for minor adjustments. And then it happened. It was a Wednesday morning when I got the email. Subject, meeting with director, 10 a.m. When I walked into the director's office, Clara was already there, her face perfectly composed, that little smirk playing at the corner of her lips. The director looked serious. "Please have a seat," she said. I sat. Then Clara started. "We've reviewed your progress," she began, "and unfortunately, it's not where it needs to be. The KPI is 85 videos per year. We're almost halfway through, and you've only completed 30. I felt my heart pounding in my ears. "Ma'am," I said, turned to the director, "I've been doing the work of 6 people. I've worked 6 days a week for months. And the videos I've finished, they've broken every view record our channel's ever had. Clara told me quality mattered more than quantity." The director's eyes softened, briefly, but she shook her head. "The KPI is 85. I can't ignore that." And then Clara dropped a line that burned into my memory. "We'll find a professional production house to finish the project." She said professional like it was poison, like I'd been a mistake she was correcting. The director nodded slowly. "You've done what you could. Thank you for your effort." And that was it. I was done. But as I walked out of that office, one thought cut through the humiliation like a knife. She wanted professionals? Fine. I'd give her professionals, the kind that would bury her career. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at my desk, staring at the glowing monitor, replaying the meeting over and over. Every insult, every smirk, every false promise. Then I remembered something, the vendor database. One of my responsibilities had been maintaining a list of trusted production houses for outsourcing. Names, contacts, rates, past collaborations. If Claire was going to outsource, that list was her only roadmap. She didn't have industry contacts. She didn't even know how production bids worked. I opened the database. Rows and rows of entries. And I started typing. I changed phone numbers, tweaked email addresses, swapped company names around just enough to break everything. When I was done, there was only one valid entry left, a small production house run by a friend of mine named Daniel. Daniel was a junior director at a boutique studio. Talented guy, struggling to break into bigger projects. So I called him. "Hey, you up?" "Barely," he yawned. "Why?" "I've got a proposal. How would you like a 6-month, 6-figure project handed to you?" He laughed. "What's the catch?" "The catch," I said, "is that you have to help me get revenge." That woke him up. I explained everything, the impossible workload, the firing, the coming outsourcing, and the database. If the university reached out for quotes, they'd call him. And when they did, he'd be ready, with a flawless pitch tailored perfectly to their tastes. Because I'd teach him everything they wanted to hear. Daniel's tone changed from shock to excitement. "This could actually work," he said. "But why help me?" "Because it helps us both," I said. "You get your big break. I get closure. And you'll pay me a 15% finder's fee. Fair. Deal." By morning, we had a signed agreement between me and his company. Then I walked Daniel through the entire playbook, the university's branding goals, Claire's ego triggers, the director's obsession with prestige. I gave them exactly what to say, how to present mock-ups, what buzzwords to drop. When the call came 2 days later, "We'd love to invite you to pitch." We were ready. The meeting went flawlessly. Daniel told me later that Clara was beaming during his presentation. They signed the contract that same afternoon. She had no idea she just handed $500,000 to the very person whose career she'd sabotaged. But the best part? The budget she just approved was about to blow up in her face. And I didn't have to lift a finger. Production houses weren't cheap, even for simple projects. Each video cost 2, sometimes 3 times my monthly salary. Multiply that by 50 videos, and the numbers ballooned fast. But Clara was desperate. She needed to prove she could finish the project without me. So she signed every invoice, approved every shoot, every cost overrun. No director approvals. No budget reviews. Just blind panic, disguised as confidence. Meanwhile, I sat back and collected my 15% cut. Every payment Daniel's company received, a portion landed in my account. Clean, legitimate, and beautifully ironic. In 4 months, I made more than I would have in over a year at the university. I used part of it to pay off my student debt, and the rest to buy a one-way ticket to Bali. I can still remember sitting on that beach, sunset over the water, the sound of waves mixing with laughter from the bars nearby, and thinking, I did it. I'd beaten her. Quietly. Completely. Then my phone rang. It was Maya. Her voice was trembling, but not with fear, with delight. "You will not believe what just happened," she said. "What?" "Clara, she's been fired. Like, security escort fired." I sat up, heart pounding. "Wait, what happened?" "She overspent the content budget by 10 times. The chancellor found out. Apparently, the director had no idea she'd approved half those invoices. It's chaos." Clara tried to justify it, but when they showed the numbers, it was over. I laughed. Hard. Not the polite kind. The kind that comes from somewhere deep, cathartic, pure. "What about the director?" I asked. "She got chewed out, but she's keeping her job. Clara's gone. She won't get another job in this field again." When the call ended, I just sat there, letting it sink in. The same woman who'd fired me over performance had single-handedly destroyed her career to meet the impossible goals she'd set for me. And the irony? She'd achieved it. 85 videos, but at a price the university would never forgive. I never saw Clara again. But sometimes, I wonder what went through her mind when she realized the hole she'd dug for herself. Did she think of me? Did she remember that meeting where she called me unprofessional? Probably not. People like her rarely reflect. They only deflect. But I didn't need her acknowledgement. I already had my justice. That job taught me something important. There's a certain kind of power in being underestimated. When people assume you're weak, they never see you coming. Today, I work for myself. I produce videos for clients who actually value creativity. And every time someone asks me about my turning point, I tell them this story. Because revenge doesn't always have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes it's just a perfectly executed plan, a bank transfer, and a sunset over the ocean. If you've ever been mistreated, underestimated, or fired unfairly, remember, the best revenge is making their downfall look like an accident. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment "Justice Served" below. Because sometimes karma takes her time, but when she arrives, she brings receipts.